Just saying the other. Meetings.
Oh, yeah, the, that's what we did last time.
What's going on?
Hi.
See y'all.
And it'll pop up.
Yeah. We can get this to in there. The red button.
I'll say about that.
Start getting over there.
Yeah, I've already started the meeting.
So if you look on that other screen, council. Oh, it's on me.
What am I pointing you to? Oh, this one? Yeah, let me pull up. We're ready.
Thank you. Welcome to our March 20th City Council meeting. We're happy to see so many of you here tonight. We're going to start with a call to order. The meeting's called to order. Every City Council member is here. We have a quorum, and we'll do the invocation. Our gracious Father, we thank you for our beautiful little city of Oak Point. We ask for peace and comfort for every member of our staff and all of our residents, and we ask for your protection for them. Bless us with your wisdom and discernment to make the very best decisions for Oak Point. We pray for healing for those that are sick, and we pray for comfort for those that have lost their loved ones. In God we still trust. Amen.
Amen.
Jack Brown is going to lead us in the pledges.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Item number 4 is items of community interest. Joni, would you like to go first?
Yes. So we have Spring Fest coming up on Saturday, March 23rd from 9 to 11 a.m. We will have our egg hunt as usual. We have a balloon artist and a face painter, a petting zoo. The Easter Bunny will be here, Bubble Vibes, a photo booth, and a food truck. So we hope everybody can come out and have a good time. We also have started our new hours at City Hall. So we are now open from 7:30 to 5:30 Monday through Thursday. We do not close for lunch anymore. So that gives an extra 2 hours those days of the week. And then on Friday, we're here from 8 until noon. So, and that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. We have a special guest with us tonight. Adriana, would you come up to the front, please? This is Adriana and Nimby. And she, if you face that way, face the audience, so they can take pictures of you. She was chosen for some of her artwork for the Youth Art Month, and she made a trip to Austin, and she's one of only 15 in the entire state of Texas whose artwork will be shown in the Governor's Gallery inside the Governor's Mansion. Isn't that wonderful?
So honestly, I had no idea I would take my art into the Governor's Gallery. Like, I was just trying to draw something in art class, and now it's in the Governor's Mansion. Like, this is great.
agenda item number 5 is public input. We have several that have asked to speak. Victor Zone.
Yes, I think we're gonna do it number, talk about 12.
That'll be fine.
Yeah.
And Fawn Miller, it looks like you're down for agenda item 12 and 13.
Yes,
Is that
ma'am.
correct?
Yes.
Dagny, it looks like you would like to speak at this time.
Sure.
Come on up.
Dagny Boaz, 434 Regatta Road. First, I just, I don't think we say it enough, but how much we appreciate our city council and our city staff and all that, the hard work they do and listening to all of us all the time. I just, I hate hearing myself talk sometimes, but I just want to say that I, really appreciate what all you do, serve on the council. So I know what the effort and the time it takes to do that. So I just want to say that first off. I had a couple little issues. The fire, I think, John, I reached out to you and a number of council, and I think it's pretty clear cut that when I researched it, I don't know whether you got it or not, but you cannot burn in the city limits if you live in 300 feet of a structure. I mean, that's the Texas, what is it, TECQ. And I think Lil Lam did a pretty good job of putting it in straightforward language and brought that from our ordinance just points to that. And they kind of just brought that up and put it straight in ordinance to have clear cut. In these little neighborhoods, quarter acre lots, you shouldn't be having open burns. I'm not saying you can't, it doesn't say you can't have a fire pit or any of that. But open burn, please. It's against the Texas TQ, whatever it is. And I just like our ordinance to say that even Lil Lam took it a step further. If you're going to do one, have a permit, get it registered, and pay $25. I think we'll stop some of that. And it scares me to death to see these leaves go up in the trees in my neighborhood. So anyhow, that's still on that soapbox, and I'll stay on it until it's done. I'm sorry. So that's kind of it. And then I know we're talking about roads and stuff like that, but I also would like some vision or insight or planning. And, Yacht Club Estates is one thing, and I know Crescent's has the biggest culverts. Flooding. I mean, we have culverts here. We don't know we have culverts. I didn't know if there was culverts in the entrance of Yacht Club Estates like I figured out this last week. And just because I've had the property now on the end. There's multiple drainage stuff and looking at it, I just, I'm sorry, that's not on the property, it's on the city right away, it's part of the city. Those culverts belong to the city. So I don't have the strength to keep, I got all my leaves done and then that got clogged and I wound up with more leaves than I started with. So anyhow, but I would just like some insight in looking at the culverts. And then the other thing, and I really should have gone to Park and Rec on this, but I just think we've got a lot of stuff going on in this city as far as the Jake's Place and the trails and walking trail and what you're planning on doing with pickleball and all that. I would love to see just what's new going on our website. Content. I'd like to see some refresh on the content and see what you're all working for. I don't want to go through, and I do, go through and read the minutes from all these councils and board commissions. I just like to see what's happening, and you get it sometimes in the newsletter and stuff, but I like to see that on the website. I was looking to see as a non-resident, I can join Little Elm's Rec Center. So I was on their website, and I hate to say, I'm pretty impressed with what Little Elm's done with their website alone, with their content. I'd like to see, I don't know if they're going to do one pickleball or two, but just see some updates and refresh, so, I want to read it on this. And that's kind of it. That's all I really have. But I'd love to know the updates, what's going on with the trails, and where's it going, or what's the status of it, and, even how long this trail is over here around this park. That's all new. I told people it's there, and they're going like, really? I didn't know we had a walking trail. I said, okay. You can't find it on our website. So, thank you. Appreciate it. Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
the trail is 0.6 miles.
Thank you.
Ask me how I know.
Okay, good. I know I went around it twice and the dog would only do it once. So it's like, okay. Thank
Agenda item number 6, presentation by Louisville Mayor Gilmore concerning prairie land reclamation. And Scott asked if you could introduce him.
So I call the mayor of Louisville here because he's gained a reputation for doing remarkable things with prairie land reclamation. And which also kind of includes gardens. And he's got done a lot of work within it in Louisville to get some of this done. And the park board is considering converting some of Jake's Place into a prairie land or prairie land reclamation kind of thing, or butterfly garden. And I hope that we get more out of it than that, and that somehow we can convince Bloomfield and Ashlar to incorporate some of these ideas in for their yards. And we all worry about a loss of water with all these new houses, and watering grassy yards is just not going to be a thing in 10 years. So we might as well get it started sooner than that. So thanks very much, Mayor, for coming to talk to us about it.
Councilor, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Do I get a clicker? I think that's what I saw. Awesome. Can't function without one of these guys. Thank you, first of all, council, staff, residents. I'm going to present to you just an abridged version of what I presented last month to the Native Plant Society of Texas. If you're a NPSOT member, you already know all this, but it is an amazing resource for folks who want to start talking about how do we plant native plants. You know, the stuff that can survive Snowmageddon and the stuff that can survive the summers that we keep getting, you know, as opposed to the stuff that we pour a lot of water on and then it just disappears in the paper. So hopefully be respectful of everybody's time, but there's a bunch of resources available. If the community continues and wants to move down this path, happy to be a resource. My Parks and Recreation team is also absolutely at your disposal. We believe that a Denton County that shares information is a stronger Denton County. And so we know where you are. Hopefully you can learn from our journey and take things that are specific to your community. So let me give you just a little bit of where we are and where we're going, if I can make that work. Come on.
So you're not cooperating?
No.
We have a backup.
We have a backup?
We have a backup.
Plan B.
Try this.
Backups.
None of it's okay. Great. Well, then I'll just.
All right, there we go. All right, so for those of you who maybe know a little bit of my history, I grew up in Yuma, Arizona. So this is what my backyard looks like, literally, when I was growing up. Next slide.
Oh, sure.
Sure. But we do get this for a few days every year. Our natives go crazy. Same here in Texas, except we have a longer blooming season. You know, our springs come out. Next slide. And while we don't have beautiful butterflies as much in Arizona where I grew up, we do have some cuddly critters that we like to deal with. But the natives know what they're doing. Next slide. Now, being a kid that grew up in Arizona, and Councilmember Dupper just mentioned this, Arizona is right now in the space where folks that live in ETJs are no longer getting water delivered to their neighborhoods. That the communities have said, no, we don't have enough extra water, we can only handle our water. And so you gotta find it somewhere else. And that somewhere else is California. So these are communities that are right outside of Scottsdale, right outside of Tempe and Mesa, you know, high dollar communities. They're not getting water. And while I know the water issues are much more a Western thing than they are here in Texas right now, Texas, as I've been told, is where the West begins. And we're beginning to have some challenges. Some of you may have heard that down in the Austin area, I forget the name of the town, but one of the big towns down there is about to exceed their water budget. And they're gonna have to go find other sources of water. So it's a thing we gotta be planning for. Next slide. Now, Louisville, we of course right there at the bottom end of the lake, we have a lot of in our planning document, which is our 2025 plan. A lot of this came to talk about how do we restore both the cross timbers and the Blackland Prairie. And I think you guys have both of those as well up in here. Those are the two eco-regions that we have that we are supporting. Next slide. And of course, we've had a lot of resources to work with, UNT, the city, our school district, the Corps of Engineers. Of course, if we're doing anything on core property, we have to deal with Native Plant Society, Master Naturalists, again, folks that are up in this area. You guys are lucky. We've got, not far from here, there's an amazing native plants place called Rooted In. Those guys are incredible. You need to, if you have any interest in native plants, go see them. Next slide. Now, most of this for me, my journey, started about 2016 when we signed the Mayor's Monarch Pledge. Okay, and I don't know, do you guys do that one too? So the Mayor's Monarch Pledge is, we pledge to do certain things. And there's a checklist. And every year you have to do a little bit more and a little bit more to provide a great habitat for these guys as opposed to the scorpions. Next slide. And you know, here we are, we're on the flyway. So these butterflies, they feed birds, you know, so we have a lot of migratory stuff. And for those of you who are birders right now, this is the season, right? Hummingbirds are on their way, screech owls are nesting. So there's a lot of great stuff going on. But the key here is when I thought about protecting butterflies, I thought it meant don't hit them with your car and stop using pesticides. What I didn't realize is that pledging to save those meant something a little bit more. Next slide. What it really means is how do we create a Buc-ee's for butterflies? Right? And so now we're talking about ecotourism. We're talking about not just restoring things to the way they were, to the stuff that lives here and really succeeds here, but can we create a beautiful environment? Next slide. This is our Thrive Nature Park, and as you can see, we have a beautiful prairie meadow, and it's right in the heart of Louisville near our Thrive Recreation Center. We'd love to take you on a tour if you want to come on out. We do all sorts of experiments there, citizen science, those types of things, but the key is you've got to put this in places where residents see it, because you are projecting what you want to see in the community as a municipality. If we want to see it, we got to do it. And we got to put in place the rules to make it make sense, because I know the biggest complaint I get is things look a little scruffy. It's the biggest complaint that we get so far with these is things are looking a little scruffy. So my response is, I don't know anybody in Texas that's not a little scruffy. Texas kind of, our swagger is scruffy. So it's okay that things aren't the perfect British garden, perfectly manicured. But by the same token, we don't need people who are taking advantage of that and saying, oh, it's native habitat, and the reality is it's just a weed garden they don't want to maintain. There's maintenance involved in this. There is upkeep that's involved in this, but it's doing it the right way. Next slide. So we do things like we put in rain gardens, we put in drainage. If you've got any place, we call them hell strips, that place between the curb and the sidewalk, because nothing grows there. I will tell you, frog fruit loves it. It loves to be abused, and it's a native. Horse fir loves it, grows in that area. You have purple fall asters, they will grow in that area as well. And they're beautiful little purple daisy-like flowers. Next slide. So find opportunities to put that in your public infrastructure. Here's the really cool thing. There are actual economic benefits. When you're putting that investment in, specifically in grasslands, because Blackland Prairie is actually the most endangered ecoregion in North America. There's less than 1% of the original Blackland Prairie still in place. Flower Mound is original Blackland Prairie. So we get tremendous economic benefits. We get air quality, we get carbon sequestration. These things have roots you wouldn't believe underneath. They help with drainage and flow. They capture more water so you don't have as much runoff issues. So lots of different positive health effects and economic benefits to restoring grasslands in your neighborhoods. Next slide. We spent, now guys, this is at scale of Louisville, okay? So I'm not saying you have to go $150,000, but there's a small investment. And here's the neat thing. It's about a 3-year investment. You plant them, and they kind of look a little, and they're trying to do their thing, but they're building that root infrastructure that first year. The second year, they get a little bit better, a little stronger. By year 3, they've got their legs. They've killed everything else native because they're Texan. They killed all the invasives, and you're off to the races. So next slide. Here's the key. You got to plan. You got to optimize that plot. You got to figure out what's there currently and what needs to be removed. You got to convert that. So for us, we're doing 19 acres of medians. This was our first phase. We're doing another 25 acres this year. And then take a look at your strategies for planting and mowing. Are you going to plant actual potted, little pine sports, whatever that is? Do you want to get starters? Do you want to do seed? What does that look like? You got to assess how it's going, and you've got to engage the community. So, folks, if you're going to do this, you need signage. You need something in the ground that says this is a butterfly habitat, this is a native prairie restoration, whatever that is. You need to educate the residents so that they know what's going on. They don't think it's just not being maintained, and then they can actually emulate. You can put it, here's the seed mix we use, here's how we buy this stuff. You can give them that information. Next slide. So you can see here, if you come down to Louisville, this is Garden Ridge. So we have this big spine, and Garden Ridge is the TNMP. It's all power lines that come through the middle of the city, right? So we got this big green median all the way through, and it was just crabby grass, and we finally got a trail put in there. And we went, this is perfect. So what we've done is we've done prairie restoration in these. We've planted these different plots, and we've done some different things. We've done just a seeding over the top. We've done tilling and seeding, and then we also did silverization, which I'll show you in a second. Next slide. This is a butterfly garden in the middle of the median right here. That's actually right next to my house. So I live down on the corner of that, bottom right corner of that picture. That was installed last spring. This year it's coming back up. So again, it needs some water, it needs some maintenance, but once we hit year 3, butterflies everywhere. Just don't remove your car. Next slide. Solarization. Some of you, if you're gardeners, you probably know about this. You use cardboard. We used invasive. Here we had a lot of invasive Bermuda. So we used black vinyl. This is expensive, so I don't recommend it at scale. What I do recommend is if you've got a highly invasive species that you really need to nuke from orbit, this is the way to do it. It will knock everything down and give you a completely clean slate to work off of. The problem, it will knock everything down. All the wildlife, everything will be gone, and it'll have to come back and rejuvenate. But for small, highly invasive spaces, this is a great program to do. It takes the better part of 6 months, run it through the summer, and then you can plant in the fall. You can see here we used all of our mulch and soil bags to hold it down. We got so many questions from residents. What the heck's going on? Because this is, again, right on our main thoroughfare. This is that Garden Ridge. You can see all the power lines. Next slide. Ours was 6 millimeter. It cost us about $5,000 to do all of that. Again, that was a large area that we did. But we found that by just tilling and seeding, we actually get about the same result. It's only when you have a highly invasive species in there that you just can't get stuff underneath. Next slide. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but there's an app called iNaturalist, and we have folks that are citizen scientists, and they work with UNT, and they just are residents that are interested. What we saw is when we started off, we had 33 plant species in our median. When we were done, we had 142. So with the right mix, and here's what happens. Birds and butterflies start coming in, and they start bringing seeds, and you start getting more biodiversity within space. Next slide. And you can see spring hit, and the animals went up. Next slide. So again, I gave you this slide deck because it's a resource. We have a custom mix that we have made for us called Urban Median Mix. You guys can buy it from native seed. I've got it on another slide. But what we did is we just looked at what do we have on the ground, what are the planting requirements, is it shade, is it sun, and this is what we threw on there. We're going to refine this over time, I'm sure. We're going to see which ones thrive the best and keep going. Next slide. Now, we talked about this. Next slide. This one I think is probably the most relevant slide to you guys. So we did this in the medians, and then we had 2 residents say, hey, I want to do this for my adopt-a spot. How do I get that done? So we got them some seeds, we helped them till it up with our Keep Louisville Beautiful team, and so we have a butterfly pollinator garden made with natives, initiated by a resident. The Giving for Green Spaces spot, that is a kind of a neighborhood park, and we had the residents there ask, how do we upgrade our park? So we use some of our funding that we do for neighborhood beautification, and we use that to help fund the landscape. Here's the key. If you want people to not be upset about it and make sure they're incorporating it, you gotta have a border. And the native plants people will tell you all the time, you want to plant whatever you want in your front yard, just as long as it has a border, Gordon Force won't mess with it. That's the secret sauce. So what we do in ours is we mow a 10-foot strip all the way around our medians, so that there's a nice green belt, and then you got your prairie pocket. And then over time, it'll expand and grow, but that's how we keep it looking manicured and done. We also have a program for residents, if they want to do this in their yards, they have to get certified. Next slide. More pollinator areas, next slide. Education and outreach, you can actually see these in Louisville right now, they're bilingual. Next slide. The Roots for Wings program is what I'm talking about. You guys are welcome to come down. We do it once a year. It certifies folks that they can put a sign, code enforcement knows that this is intentional. It is made with native plants, and quite frankly, it's the way to go, because your neighbors are gonna go, man, this is really cool, and you're gonna love it. I don't have to mow it, doesn't take any water, the stuff is bulletproof, it looks beautiful in the summer, and you'll start seeing it expand throughout your community. Again, we're not taking anything away from residents. We're not telling them they have to get rid of their lawn. What we're telling you is they have options, and here's how the city does it, and here's how it looks beautiful. Next slide. We have a map, next slide. Here we go, Native American seed, that's the seed mix. So, next slide. We've got, a lot of acreage coming online, so look forward to seeing more of that. You guys are more than welcome to come down and take a look at what we're doing. Next slide. And of course, we were also written up in Texas Monthly last year in Louisville. So if you get a chance, it's online. Just Google Louisville Texas Monthly, and you can read about what we did. So with that, I am happy to answer any questions. I think the key takeaways are, the city needs to emulate it. The city has to have some good policies for residents so that we maintain. We want beautiful neighborhoods. We don't want people to take advantage and create disruption. We want people to have good tools to make beautiful spaces and do that for our natives. Questions?
Mayor, I have one.
Yes, sir.
You showed the medians and things of that nature, and of course, some of Hope Point has some rather large acreage properties.
Mhm.
Has any of the residents went to any of your programs and said, ooh, that's what I want to do to my lawn?
Yes.
That's what I want to do to my backyard. That's what I want to do to.
Yes, and that's what that Roots with Wings program is about, is to help them. They have to go through a training to do it, so that our code enforcement knows that they're doing this, and that we know that they're doing the right things.
Thank you, sir.
Good stuff. Is there any federal or state aid grants that you get for this thing?
Most of the grant money that I'm seeing at this point are coming from organizations like the Native Plant Society, Keep Louisville Beautiful, or Keep Texas Beautiful. There's grant money available for that. TxDOT may be looking at it. I know some of the things that most of our TxDOT medians and those types of things have come through KLB grants that have gone up to the Texas side and come back the other way. We can talk to staff and see if there's more opportunities that we're looking for. Yes, sir.
When you have a area that you're doing this to, how do you prevent the non-native species, through wind blowing or birds dropping seeds? How do you prevent that integration?
And a fair question. That's the 3-year process that I'm talking about. So your first year, you're going to put them in the ground, and you're going to have a mix, and it's not going to be as beautiful as you thought it might be. Second year, they're going to start taking over, and you're going to start seeing things, but there's still going to probably need to be some time. Some residents coming out and volunteering, staff time, might have to oversee again another batch. By year 3, the natives will kill it. The natives will take that space out.
Are any of your meetings TxDOT meetings?
Yes, they are. So we've worked hard with TxDOT to make that shift, and they're interested in it because at the end of the day, I'm not spending on water. I'm spending less on maintenance because I'm only mowing the border strip. I'm not mowing the whole thing. So there's labor, there's mowing costs. I mean, we expect this is going to drop some. I spend almost $3 million on mowing, so this should drop at least a third of that, if not half.
You have to irrigate your meetings? Or?
We do have to water, and all of our medians are irrigated. So yeah, but by the time you're at year 3, you shouldn't have to. Yes.
I'm on the parks here
Yes.
in Oak Point and heading up this wildflower
Oh, wonderful.
over here in the park. So
Wonderful.
I'm very interested. I want to come to Louisville and see what you've done. What happens in the winter time? Does it get mowed over and it's just a flat ground that's obviously not growing? It's
Right.
dead?
Right. So we do have,
I should say.
yeah, we don't let them overwinter at full stock, which is something you know, for the natives out there, for those of us who are like really following this, I mean, the best thing is to let them go until about now. But it looks really scruffy if you do that. So we do have a mowing regimen that staff would be happy to share. I don't know the dates and times of that, but we keep them for a time because the seed heads have to get out and do their thing. But once they've done that, then we can mow them down. Yes, sir.
In your first year or years, are you having, what if they did not have irrigation out there? You still have to manually irrigate in some way.
Ideally, if you can, great, but the natives are hardy. As long as we get some good rain,
From the get-go.
yeah, from the get-go, you can do well. Now, they won't propagate as fast. You know, you may put down 50 pounds of seed and only 10 or 15 of it actually takes. With watering, you're going to get a much higher return. So that's the balancing act we all have to play.
Do you have any hints for how we could convince these developers that are coming in and building 500 plus homes to somehow utilize?
So we have a couple of things that we do on that. We do incentivize permeable surface. We do incentivize native landscaping. So there are some things where, if just like you might incentivize a better facade or something like that, consider putting this into the program. We'll write it into your code. We've got most of our corporate reloads, folks that are coming in that are doing this kind of stuff. When you talk to them about, hey, this stuff is beautiful and low maintenance, they're usually on board. You know, I don't have to put nearly as much water out. I don't have to do all the other stuff. And I mean, you drive through Louisville right now, and I guarantee you, you're going to go, wow, there's still a bunch of dead shrubs and medians from the freeze last year. You know, we had those 2 big years of really good freezes. I got bunches of yup and holly and all sorts of stuff that's just dead. You know, if you can figure out how to get that to the native, I think your developers will be happier. If nothing else, have them work on the beds and gardens to plant seeds like that. Where I would go. But it's definitely it's a conversation between your ordinances and maybe have to get a little. There's a pushable there. Like anything, we want to develop to do something. Wish I had a magic bullet, but no.
One quick question, maybe this so the solarization, we've covered that for 6 months. You said nothing's gonna grow there. Now, what about things like nutsads and deep flies? Does that actually take care of that stuff?
It kills all of that stuff, because what solarization does is not only is it just not getting sunlight and oxygen, it's superheating the soil and it's baking that stuff all the way down. So yeah, I'm not kidding. It's nuking it from within. It kills everything.
Is there any destruction of nutrients?
Yeah, there definitely is. I mean, it's killing the worms. It's killing any bugs that are in there. So you're definitely going to retard a little bit of the health of the soil by doing that. But it's one of those things, if you really feel you need. I would recommend, especially for something of your size, I would go with cardboard and not the plastic, because the cardboard biodegrades and it costs less, because you can probably get neighbors to donate their Amazon boxes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. Please use me as a resource.
Thank you. It was a great slideshow.
We had some fun. You've got a copy.
It feels so beautiful.
Well, and if you have any other groups or organizations that would like to learn more, or you're going to come on down, I'm happy to be tour guide, all that stuff. We'll get you plugged in. We'll make it successful.
Thank you.
Appreciate y'all. Thank you.
You're one of my favorite Denton County mayors.
And you're one of my favorites. And I'll be safe.
We have that presentation.
Agenda item number 7, presentation and discussion of the following reports. Financial report for February 2024. Council, do you have any questions? This question's for Stephen. Licenses and permits, we're behind budget. Stephen, do you think that'll catch up in the next few months?
I'm sure.
Municipal court report for February 2024. Any questions? Permits report for February 2024. Department of Public Safety, DPS report for February 2024. Any questions for Chief?
I got one, Chief, and it's not a big deal, but I saw the one violation, or actually it was just a warning for somebody traveling 21 to 25 miles per hour above the speed limit. Where do we draw the line when it comes to a violation versus a warning at that speed? Because that's a public safety issue. That's endangerment, really. I mean, it could almost be reckless driving, depending on where it was. That was the only one that stood out to me.
I'm on the same page as you. To me, that's an automatic citation. It's the exact same thing with school zones. But according to the Code of Criminal Procedure, I can't tell the officer to I mean, I don't know the circumstances. The officer might have just been feeling nice that day, or could have been a mother with her kids in the back screaming their heads off. But, you know, so
And I get that. I just wondered where we drew the line, because everything else was a violation, especially in that category. But that one just stood out, just the one. I love the fact that if they're speeding in a school zone, it's a violation, period. If they're doing 1 to 10 over, I can handle a warning for that.
yeah.
If it's 21 to 25 and only getting a warning.
Like I said, the younger generation, they're just nice police officers.
Appreciate it, Chief. Thank you.
I've got a question about the number of CAD events by call type.
Yes.
Remind me, special patrol is like 10 times more than anything else.
Those are the neighborhood patrols. That's whenever they're actually going to, that's how many, that's whenever the officer enters to patrol the neighborhoods. So that's how many, we're keeping count on how many times they're actually in the neighborhoods.
Okay, that's what we do with vacation homes.
No, that's separate. That's an actual event numbers now, because that's an actual service that's requested. But the special patrols, aka the neighborhood patrols, that's just, so if I ever want to find out where an officer is, I can actually do a heat map to show, if in council too, if you guys ever want to see it, I can pull up to a heat map showing where the officers were patrolling and where they're running traffic, so you can see the correlation between both of them. So just another way for us to keep stats for our officers.
Okay, so remind me how many people we have on patrol in one shift?
2. We have 2.
When I came, there was 1 for 12 hours a day. I'm sorry, here.
We're short right now. We've got a couple open spots.
Yeah, okay.
Chief, I like this report, this graphic, and it listed service calls for February more than 700, and underneath it, it says a negative 51%. Is that pertaining to the prior month?
Correct, yes. And that's because I separated the special patrols and neighborhood patrols. I took that number and separated it. Because it was on the computer, when they do the neighborhood patrols, it counts as a CAD unit. So I went ahead and separated those 2 numbers, so that's why there's 2 different numbers this month.
There's also a report, this one's for fire department, and it lists the number of calls per day. I don't know if you see, but it looks like this. And I wondered about February the 18th. There were 20 emergency medical incidents. That seems like a lot for one day.
You can have my. Still asking. Good.
He can let us know later, Chief.
Okay. Yeah, let me do some digging, and I'll email the council what happened that day.
Thank you. Any other questions for DPS? Agenda item number 8, report from council liaison. A, update on the park March meeting. Scott?
So park is still working on the pickleball, as Aggie mentioned, trying to get a document from the company we hired as consultant in order for us to make a bid for that. Hopefully will be in April. And for Danny's 3 boards.
Thank you.
And so the kiosk is at the ramp is waiting. They saw we got a little pad for it. The electricity, our electric pole right behind it needs some parts and improvement before it can operate the kiosk, so hopefully in May. And the park board is trying to get mats for the swings out here, because it gives big holes, and looking into that. Mats would eliminate that amount of work to recover that. And working for this, we just discovered a pollinator garden or prairie land reclamation grass up on the north side of the park. But long way to go before that gets anywhere. That's what I got.
Thanks, Todd. B, update on the Economic Development Corporation March meeting. Greg?
Okay, so the majority of the meeting was involved our consultant Catalyst, who is helping us with retail acquisition in the commercial corridor. But before I get into that, I would just make a comment that the ongoing wait on the sign project continues. The final additional signs have been procured and priced, and the word is that the sign project should be completed sometime in early summer and everything installed in place. So it would be nice to have that one behind us. In terms of Jason Clouch's presentation regarding the commercial corridor and their activity, the Catalyst activation plan for retail. Our traffic counts and our household income statistics are very favorable, especially compared to our neighboring cities and towns. Our traffic count on, for example, 720, just south of McCormick, are about 85% of what we see on 380 and Main Street. So that's pretty significant for the traffic going up and down 720. We'll go through the substantial portion of our commercial corridor. We're still in the early stages of market development. This is really probably a 20-year note for filling out our commercial corridor. Current activity is really focused on telling our story while we're waiting for developers to get closer to building opportunities for retailers or other commercial activities to come in. Meanwhile, while this is in process, we're honing our desirable target list, and we're engaging prospects that entail recruiting events like ICSC and Retail Live, things like that. So Jason and his team are telling our story and promoting Oak Point and the opportunities that exist here, and we're looking forward to everything sort of coming together. But this is still in the quite early stages. I think the only other comment I would make is, as we reviewed the financial reports for the EDC, we noted that for the first time in a long time, sales tax has not exceeded prior years month over month. And Stephen explained that that was due to Encore having overpaid. I think, Steve, you can comment on this. I'm not making it clear, but having overpaid a few years ago, and now they're clawing back some of that.
Yeah, it had to do when Encore reviewed some audits from back in 2010 when they introduced advanced metering infrastructure. I guess the state gave them some sales tax exemption, which I guess they didn't fully take, and so the legislatures now, they've discovered this era from 2010, 11, 12, and 13, and the legislature's letting them recoup that. So It was about a 15% hit for our sales tax this month. So I'm assuming that was probably the biggest month. The next 2 or 3 years will be much smaller. That was this year.
Will that be the end of that? Couple of months?
Yeah. So as they go through 10, 11, 12, and 13's off. But I think that they laid out the biggest part of their infrastructure in 10. So 11, 12, and 13 would be smaller. So we should see smaller takes. Maybe not even notice it because of those rise in our sales tax. But this was a big deal.
That's it.
Thank you, Grant. Consent agenda, number 9, consider an act on the minutes of the February 21st, 2024 City Council regular meeting. Number 10, consider an act upon an ordinance to cancel the general election on May 4th, 2024. And number 11, consider an act on a resolution authorizing the Director of Public Safety to execute an interlocal agreement with Denton County regarding a shared government communications and dispatch services system for fiscal year 2024 through 2025. Council, do you wish to approve the entire consent agenda, or does a council member want to pull an item?
I'd like to approve consent agenda as stated.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Lusk. We have a second by Council Member Cowikian. I'm sorry, Horatio. I can find it. Horatio. Is there any discussion? If not, we'll vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Regular agenda number 12, conduct a public hearing to hear comments regarding amending subsection 10.03.099 E11B regarding attached signs mounted of the subdivision ordinance of the city of Oak Point, Texas. Public, Mr. Coker, you want to speak before I open?
Madam Mayor, this is a request that we've been receiving from multiple retail tenants about the size of the signage that we currently allow. Most of our signage for commercial and retail enterprises faces 720s, 50 miles an hour out of our retail areas. And we allow 1 square foot of signage for each linear square footage of front, whether it's building or storefront. Steve and I did some research about our competitors around us in the county, and found that the bulk of them allowed a little bit, sometimes a lot more signage than we allow. And so I have recommended to the Planning and Zoning Commission a change that would increase the square footage from 1 square foot to 2 square foot of frontage, whether it's the building frontage or the leasehold frontage. I also recommended that you put a maximum width so that they can't get any push to the edge, so that when you're driving down the street at 50 miles an hour, you look over there, it's not one continuous band of signage along. But they also eliminated the second, which currently says that you have 1 square foot of signage for each linear foot, or 1 square foot of signage for each 300 square feet of leasehold. Not frontage, but now in the ground. And when you do the math on those, it all, and the choice is the lesser of the two. So 1 square foot or the lesser of the square feet. That doesn't make any sense, and it made it a whole lot harder for the staff to come up with a recommendation when we had that. So the commission has recommended elimination of that. So what you're looking at is a recommendation to increase the size of the signage for attached signs from 1 square foot to 2 square foot for the linear frontage of a building or the leasehold space, maximizing the amount of space that can take, and eliminating the second test, which was the square footage test, that would force you into the lesser of the two choices. I hope that answers your questions. That's all I have.
So that eliminated the lesser of the two.
Yes, ma'am.
So for clarity, currently,
We're in danger now.
if we have a 20-foot linear building, they're allowed 20 square feet of signage.
Today. That's right.
And we would be going to 40 square feet. Correct. As I read through the ordinance, I don't see the reference to the linear square feet. It looks to me like it says we are only going to allow 2 square feet. And as long as it doesn't extend within 3 feet either side of the side.
That's correct. 2 square feet for the entirety of the frontage, so say the 20-foot frontage. You have the 40 square feet of signage, which can't be any closer to the edge of the building.
But it doesn't refer to the linear. It's the same.
I'm not sure. Let me go get my out.
Isn't that what you said you took out though?
We did take out that the square footage was the second calculation that I had to make it. And the code said that you can take the lesser of the two. And so the planning and zoning commission said, you think that second one is not reasonable? And it made it a whole lot simpler for me when I'm doing the reviews. And then I can just calculate.
So this says in section 2, paragraph.
Over your shoulder.
Sure.
Yeah.
It says attached signs mounted shall not exceed 2 square feet of building leasehold frontage.
I see what you're saying.
Not linear
Yeah.
feet, it's just frontage.
I
So
agree.
what it says is
2
you
square
can
feet.
only have a 2 square foot sign.
No, I think that that's a, you need to correct that.
I think this is an issue.
I think so, sir. My attorney is here.
Yeah.
Good catch.
If you're inclined to prefer to put that in, I guess it'd be 2 square feet per linear feet of building would be
For linear foot of building. Yeah.
in between 2 square feet and,
It's gonna have to be restated the way current ordinance is, except we're gonna change 1 to 2. And eliminate the 300 square feet. That would be the only differences in current ordinance and the new.
or that the way you have in the packet, that probably should be a motion to approve with the following revision, the insertion of per linear feet after 2 square feet.
All right, well, while we continue to talk about this, could you maybe work out the language? Sure. That will insert it.
So P and Z, there was discussion about a 2-line sign, like and then Italian.
That's what,
That, empty space, I didn't see that addressed in the
well,
ordinance.
because we don't actually do, the concern that they're having is that I don't take a rectangle. We use the Laristica sign as the one, because it has Laristica, and then below that it says Italian restaurant or something like that in the small print. And the concern was that you would draw a rectangle around the whole thing. But what I do is I take the Laristica, I do that one, and then the little one that says restaurant, I do that. And that together is the square footage. And that's the intent, I believe, that the council had when they adopted this original. And that's the way I've been enforcing that for the last 12 years, 15 years.
It has to conform to the establishment logo and everything else.
That's
So
correct.
it may not be a square or a rectangle, but the space needs to be conforming to the ordinance.
That's right, not to exceed 1 square feet, or if you approve the ordinance, 2 square feet of frontage. And I will tell you that when you hear some of the discussions from the public hearing, it will probably make a lot more sense.
Okay, so that doesn't need to be
I don't think,
specifically.
Councilman, I don't think that needs to be talked about, because we don't do that.
You don't do it. Would somebody else do it? Your successor? Or does he need to be told?
I don't think so. I think it's pretty good common practice. Generally speaking, I've been doing this for a long time. The people that I work with in lots of municipalities use the same interpretation that I do. They don't just draw a box and whatever you can fit into that 40 square foot box is what you get. That's not it.
It's a standard calculation.
And I'll add that, yeah, we typically just use the sign portion itself, so if it's, you know, if it's the word, we use the box around the word. And I'll add a little bit more to caveat what Michael said, if that board would say on say a white backboard, so that it was a square thing and allow a rooster to go on that, so it was shadowing onto that, and we would actually count that full square area.
That's correct. Because that's part of the sign.
That's part of the sign, exactly.
When it's part of the sign, it's counted. It's just, it's not left, I mean, it was just restaurant day. You know, that's what you count. If they want to decide to put the whole thing on a big 4x4 square, that 4x4 is going to be it.
Good question.
Yes, sir.
High level question first. We should let do a public hearing and then discuss this. I got some questions. We're going to do it after the public hearing.
My preference is for you to do that.
So then, getting back to the minutia, who's the final arbiter of what conforms and what doesn't to the ordinance?
Today. I have been overruled by Stephen, but not on that.
So he's the final arbiter.
No, he's my boss.
I would have to strongly disagree.
Thank you, Mr. Coker. We're going to open the public hearing at 6:57. Vaughn Miller, would you like to speak at this time?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. Thank you for your time tonight. Appreciate everything you did. I'm Vaughn Miller. I live at 402 Preston Polo Drive in Oak Point. I'm the developer of the shopping center here in question, which is spurred on this wonderful revision to your ordinance that was approved unanimously at the NZ. And this is the example I put forward at the NZ meeting, which you can clearly see what makes the most sense. The top visual is the signage that we want from a rustica. And under the new revised ordinance, that would fit. We wouldn't count the blank space on either side of the Italiano. We would count the La Rustica and the Ward Italiano, and that would conform to 2 square feet per 1 linear footage. The one on the bottom right or the center, is the teeny tiny one that's currently allowed, which is completely unreasonable. You can't see it. I mean, that's a safety hazard. You can't see it from a 720. And remember, this ordinance was written 20 years ago in 2003. That council had no idea what would happen to 720 and how big 720 would become. Nobody could have anticipated how big and wide and fast 720 has become 20 years ago. So there's, they're not to blame. They didn't know. But now we have seen what's happened with 720, and the sign ordinance needs to be updated to reflect our current conditions. And every single tenant in the shopping center has reached out to Michael and has complained about the size of their signage. And they all uniformly have requested this change. And I think this will also bode well for what we're doing at EDC with Jason Catalyst, trying to seek out tenants. The last thing you want is to tell a tenant you're trying to get is the tenant you can only have one square foot of sign per lineal frontage. I mean, that's a deal killer to a retailer. And it flies in the face of everything we're trying to do as a city on 720, especially the EDC and with Ashler and with the property across the street from us. So this is good for everyone, and it's a safety issue as well. It helps so you can see the stores from 720 without having to hit your brake and slow down and squint. Because you can see the one in the middle and the bottom, that's ridiculously small. And I think every reasonable person would agree that the top center looks the best. And that's also, by the way, how we designed this center. When we designed it, it came through and you all approved it. We designed it with large parapet storefronts above the windows so that the tenants could have large signs to be seen from Center Point. That was in the original design plans that we submitted to y'all, that y'all approved when we first developed the center. You may recall. Most of y'all were here. And Victor is here as well, and Russ would like to speak to it as well. I'm available if you have any questions. Thank you so much for your support. This is really important. Thank you.
Hello, Mayor Compton, how are you doing today? I'm Victor Pizzoni. I'm actually owner of Restaurant Italiano. They have 94 restaurants for this road. Just like Ron mentioned, this is a new one to us. We physically that's needed on 720. I was able to know 720 is becoming Dallas always as and getting harder and harder to kind of see signage from storefronts. Prime example, I always say, if you look at you scan a CVS, and you face towards Marco's Pizza, and that's interesting, that pencil place there as well, it's very hard to see the signage. It's kind of small. So this is very important to us. So I'm not in favor of this issue. That's why I would ask on this, this so we can actually open the sign there as soon as possible. Very excited for everything. Thank you.
So we're very excited about when you're open.
So, yeah, so we are probably looking at, my biggest thing is I told contractors I want to be looking for Mother's Day. I think that's going to be a huge holiday. If anyone's worked in the restaurant business before, that's like the second largest business day in the restaurant world. Just so everyone loves to pay for mothers and so many part of family. And so we're probably looking about 45 days. So I would recommend, as I shared earlier, stop by that series. That door is always open. I know you stopped in a few times. I always miss you, I'm sorry. But yes, so take a look at it. It's beautiful. Brick walls are up. I see some.
This is different from the others.
You got a question about these 3 signs at the bottom?
Just examples.
That's just
That's a sample of what's currently allowed by your ordinance, 1-to-1, 1 square foot or 1 window frontage. The one in the middle is what is currently allowed, and our original proposed one is the top second, which is also the bottom left. Yes, that's correct. The far right one, I think, was a sample that he did that showed if you counted he has frontage on the north side of the building that faces to McCormick. So the sign guy added that into his calculation, trying to get a little more square footage. I think that's what he did on the bottom right. But still, I think everyone agrees the top center is what we want. And this is very, very important vote tonight. Pass this to allow him to do that.
So Stephen, did McDonald's complain with you?
We didn't get any complaints from McDonald's. I heard a little bit from Standard on some of their properties, but we didn't get any complaints from McDonald's.
Going to close the public hearing at 7. Oh, I'm sorry. Would you like to speak, Jack?
Just briefly. Jack Brown at 615 Woodridge Drive. No point. There was a controversy or a holdup in the donut shop opening because the sign that they designed and brought out was too large for the city's standard. Is it reasonable to assume that this standard that you're voting for might have allowed the original sign that they brought out and they would have been able to open sooner?
Perhaps Stephen can explain.
It's just a fact question. They wouldn't have opened any sooner. So, but it would have probably allowed them to have the sign. Their biggest issue was they failed to get a permit and realized what the sign requirements were. They went to a sign company, had a sign put up with no permit. Unfortunately, that sign didn't meet the ordinance.
But it might be this one.
It might have met this one, but honestly, it might not have, given the caveat that you have to leave so many square feet on each side of the sign, because they have a very small frontage. So if you were to say, take their frontage and multiply it by 2, and total number of square feet that they can have, and then back out the amount that you have to have between the spaces of the building, it's still math problems. So it may not have been able to be much bigger.
Well, I just wonder if this might be retroactive in case any of the existing merchants might want to re-sign based on this new standard.
Jack, would you please fill out an input card so we have a record? I'm sorry, these are filled out, let me get one from Jim.
Well, I know it's even this, are any of the other existing businesses, they have signs that are infringe on the free for each end?
No, not currently. The only business I heard from on the Standards property was Marco. They would like to have a little larger sign. We did not hear anything from the dentist office. And honestly, I don't think the donut box would even get much larger to meet the standards just based on the footprint of the building. And Dunkin', I don't think complained, but I don't know if we finalized their package. I know we just.
Yeah, we did.
So,
They modified it to meet the current standard.
but they weren't complaining prior to. We didn't hear anything. Honestly, the only ones that we really heard from were Marco's and Marustica, and I believe the dentist office on Farm Village property.
Would it be prudent if the ordinance is amended to advise anybody that's underway that things have changed?
Right, that's what Michael had just said. I guess Duncan had revised their plans to maybe meet the new standard.
The new standard.
I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:07 p.m. Mr. Coker, would you please return in case there's questions?
Yes, ma'am, I sure will.
I have a question. John, can you pull up the staff recommendation to do that on 12/13? Another short one. I'm confused about some of what's going on here. I understand the basics of it. You want to go from 1 square foot per linear width to 2 square feet per linear width. It's pretty straightforward. But all of them, So, Mr. Coker, so top of the agenda item is the description of the agenda items. Also talk about the 300 square feet area, which is less, P and Z recommendation and the staff recommendation. The P and Z, what we, basically about both, P and Z commission recommendation or the staff recommendation. There's ordinances as printed, or 2 pages down is an actual ordinance. Is that ordinance as printed in here correct all the way? No, so bring up the ordinance, go ahead.
No, the ordinance that's in your packet, and that's now up on my screen, is not correct.
So what are we gonna do?
I believe that our city attorney is making some modifications now, but the addition of Councilman Weiler recommended is being put in. In addition, there's a section about 3 feet, and it should have said 3 feet from frontage edges. And
That 3 feet means 6 feet maximum between the minimum between signs.
Right.
3 feet to the edge.
Is it correct?
3 feet from the next.
Do you have 2 revisions for us?
I do. Looking at this prior slide, the staff recommendation language, basically the motion, if you're inclined to approve that staff recommendation, it would be motion to approve of the following revisions. Insert per linear feet after 2 square feet, and insert edges between frontage and then 3 feet in subsection 11B. That's the only section that's being amended is subsection 11B, 11A, 11C, our original text.
Would you please repeat the second revision?
And yeah, I've got it written out for whoever cares to make that motion. A motion to approve with following revisions: insert per linear feet after 2 square feet, and insert edges between frontage and then 3 feet in subsection 11 feet. So if you're inclined to do that, who would like that motion?
Yeah, I can't remember that.
And that is actually the P and Z's recommendation.
Are there any more questions from Mr. Roper?
To be clear, there's a letter there, there's a planning and zoning recommendation, there's a staff recommendation, and there's actual ordinance. It's printed in the agenda, and then there's this correction ordinance. What we're talking about now is the corrections of the ordinance itself. Nothing to do with recommendations and staff recommendations. The bottom line is 2 feet per linear foot, 300 square foot things out, and the edges, 3 feet from the edges.
Right, and that's from linear edges, or what about top and bottom? So we consider just full size. So we want to consider that.
I don't
Well,
want
I mean, I think, you know, we want to go over the size, height of the building, or below the, awning level, I don't know, is that.
I think I understand your question, Councilman, but I actually think by restricting it to 2 square feet for linear footage or frontage, and restricting how close you get to the edge, is going to regulate how high it's going to be. And if there's canopies, the next section on this doesn't allow you to put anything on canopy. We had that problem with 7-Eleven way back. So I think that this handles that. And if it doesn't, I'll be back to ask you to fix it.
So if I had a business who's near Chile,
As long as it was not no more than, the eye was no more than 2 square feet.
So, Michael, the Aristica sign is very tasteful, looks very classy and suitable for the restaurant. There's nothing in any of our regulations, I'm assuming, that addresses the types of signs, whether they're backlit, or whether they're just strictly letter mounted on the building.
There is a lot of guidance about.
There is.
Lighting, anchoring,
Colors,
all.
are there?
But colors not so much. But the amount of, if you've got a backlit sign or a lid sign, the maximum amount of lumens that you can have is like half the lumen. Because I also enforce on top of everything else, our dark skies ordinance. So it makes a pretty good effect. I haven't had this problem with Lucifer, but the last one that I've been working on has been a challenge.
So
We do have regulations that cover all those things.
should this be an opportunity for us to revisit the entire signage regulation and make sure that it's consistent with what our vision is for the commercial order?
I think maybe that is a process that we're to do with half and that character code portion. Maybe that's some recommendation to them. I think that's a process for it at that time.
I see this is a specific change to, sign ordinance. Fixing the specific problem.
This is just to address the size of the signage, but overall, Councilman Wheeler, I believe you're correct. And I think that we'll likely do that half once we get that project done. Back in full speed beginning tomorrow.
I would not like for something to leak through, in the interim, if things are in process that would conform to what our future visions.
Absolutely.
Any other questions for Mr. Coker? If not, is there a motion?
Make a motion.
Would it be possible for us to just get a reading of the sections with the proper wording in them.
That's.
Sorry, have that.
I think Jeff handed that to somebody.
Yeah, I've got not the entire verbiage, but where the edits are taking place. So, okay, I make a motion to approve with the following revisions. Insert, quote, per linear feet, unquote, after, quote, 2 square feet, unquote. And insert, quote, edges, unquote, between, quote, frontage, unquote, and, quote, than 3 feet, unquote, in subsection 11B.
Second.
And further discussion. That's
Let me go through the
confusing.
motion, then we'll come back to you. Please. We have a motion.
Mr. Coker, is this eliminating the 300 square foot?
We have a motion by Councilmember Dufford. We have a second by Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Lusk. And we're open for further discussion.
Thank you, sorry.
That's okay.
I'm confused and I'm not sure what I'm voting on, so I would like for the, section 2, A and B or whatever relevant, components are being amended to the proper wording.
What you want is, what subsection B would sound like. Should you approve this one?
I think I could read it here. It would read the attached sign mounted shall not exceed 2 square feet per linear square feet of the building or leasehold frontage. The sign may not be located any near the building or leasehold frontage edge than 3 feet. Is what it should be.
That's correct.
Okay, but you said the attached sign mounted shall not exceed 2 square feet of building linear square feet.
Attached sign mounted shall not exceed 2 square feet per linear square feet of buildings or leasehold.
Square feet is.
I'm sorry, per. I read it wrong. I have it written down right. Shall not exceed 2 linear feet per square. No, I got it wrong.
2 square feet.
2 square feet per linear. Where's that part?
I don't think we should let him write it.
I think you're right. I wrote it 2 places. And I wrote it one. So shall not exceed, as Jeff wrote, 2 square feet per linear foot of building or leasehold frontage. The sign may not be located any near the building or leasehold frontage edge than 3 feet.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions before we vote? Not, we'll vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
And Mayor, let me say something about our sign. I think that you need to take some consideration as it relates to the work that you're doing on the economic development side. Because to make sure that I was right, I drove in on Southern Springs. And I looked at the signs that I can see, and it's really dingy, you know, from where I was, except for the McDonald's on it. You know, they didn't ask for any variances. I went through there with them twice to make sure they'll put some things right, and they can find the ordinance.
Final comment, this is for Stephen at Michael. To me, it's confusing when you have recommendations by staff and recommendations by finance things going, and you have separate rule verbiage that's actually in the ordinance, which is in the, you need to kind of straighten it out going forward. We'll vote on the actual ordinance, not the recommendations. Or we change it like we just do.
I agree with you.
Complicated things.
We'll straighten it out.
Thanks, John. Agenda item 14, consider an act to approve an ordinance amending chapter 10, article 10.03, entitled subdivision ordinance, to bring it into compliance with the home rule charter. Jeff, please.
Mayor and Council, yeah, this ordinance is a cleanup provision due to the home rule charter. In particular, section 9.01 of the charter talks about the commission being responsible to adopt preliminary plans and final plans. My understanding that that's the desire for the city to have P&Z approve, have final approval of plans. A number of cities do that now, given some legislative changes over the last few years that cities can get into a 30-day clock issue on the approval, especially if it has to go from P&Z and then to city council. And so a number of cities have done away with the plans going to city council. And the final approval is with P&Z, Planning and Zoning Commission. So this ordinance basically is a cleanup where the various sections talk about city council. That was revised to say commission throughout this document, and that basically wherever you get city council approving the plan, it was revised to say commission, and really that is the only cleanup, other than the very last section. Which is, we say section, it's actually a removal. It's section 16 of the proposed ordinance. There was a provision in there where it talked about variances going to the Planning and Zoning Commission. That's just not correct. We already have variance provisions going to the Board of Adjustment. That's where variances and special exceptions need to go to. They go to the Board of Adjustment. For whatever reason, we had a duplication where it talks about variances going to P&Z, which is not accurate. That would be happy to answer your question. Yeah, basically, this is a cleanup through the charter.
And then this is, city council will no longer consider plats, both preliminary or final.
Correct.
Is there a downside to that? Besides, obviously the upside is that timing works out better. I'm going to have a controversial final plats. I don't like what the plan's going to do.
I guess from the other cities, I deal with, I'll use Colony for example, it just goes to P&Z for plan approval. That really has not been an issue. I mean, rezones still go to, P&Z, city council, get site plans, go to, P&Z, city council. As far as the plan itself, because really it's a ministerial duty. I think you've heard that term. And that if it meets our requirements, we have to approve it. Say also that we have to approve it if it meets our ordinance. If we don't like our ordinance, we can change the ordinance, but it's only going to apply to future applicants under an invested rights statute. So, yeah.
What will city council role be in terms of flats? Zero. What will city council role be in terms of flats?
Well, I guess eventually, just if you wanted to go back to plan approval, amend the ordinance, but you would, if approved, you would have no more approval over plans. It would expedite, kind of a development for developers. Again, if a plant's meeting the requirements of the city, then both P&Z and city council has to approve it. So it's kind of redundant to have it go to P&Z and then city council.
I understand. Let me ask you. So there's a lot of preliminary plats, there's plats, there's final plats, there's other top plats, all these.
Replats.
All those considered ministerial.
Yes.
If they meet our requirements.
Right, ministerial.
If they don't meet our requirements, then under some legislative changes, we got to send them a letter or notify them where they're deficient, and then they get to clean it up.
But I mean, our requirements of ministerial.
If it meets our requirements.
It's not a lot of lines, not saying I'm losing control, but those are the providing services, other than city council.
And we can always change the plant requirements, consistent with state law. If we see deficiencies, we can change the planting requirements. It's only going to apply to future applicants. It won't apply to those that are already in play and being processed.
Understood. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So Jeff, again, this change in the ordinance is to bring it into consistency with the formal chart, correct?
Correct. It's based on section 9.01.
And so it would be logical to not approve this particular change in the ordinance? Or if we didn't approve it, how does that?
Well, I guess what we have to do is go to the voters to amend the charter to address that section.
Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong, didn't we sort of talk through all this not too long ago when we were talking about the timing of when plats have to be brought in, and we agreed at that time that it was a ministerial duty and that the council didn't need to really go through all that?
We did recently.
I think that's the genesis of, say, hey, should I write this one? So here it is, I think.
This is really just, as Jeff said, it's a cleanup, and we had charter provision requires that the P and Z approve. I have written in my staff report that P and Z to adopt preliminary final plats. Technically, your charter controls, so we're just trying to get our ordinance to agree with our charter. So.
And again, I would say a lot of cities are going this path, and just have a number of cities on it.
One more question. Can somebody read 9.01? Since I wrote out the charter.
Well, I don't have the whole section in front of me, but I have the relevant section. It's subsection 6 says the commission shall be responsible to and act as an advisory body to the city council. The commission shall have the duties and authority to, and under G, to adopt preliminary and final plans.
So basically, we're amending the ordinance to match the newer document of our home rule charter that we just approved last year.
And there's a hierarchy that, yes, Texas Constitution, you got Texas state law. And for cities, you got home rule charter, and then your ordinance. Your ordinances can't conflict with charter can't conflict with state laws, state constitution, so on and so forth.
So we're amending the ordinance, not our charter.
Right, we're amending the ordinance to be consistent with the charter.
To amend the ordinance requires approval of the voters.
The chart.
I'm sorry, the charter, everything's backwards, and
So what this amendment does then, it says, okay, planning zoning, you get it, you make a decision, it's done. We don't see it.
Instead of going to city council, go to the commission.
The other thing we would do with it, if we got it, or say, we don't like it for some reason, we want to change it. Which is
You could amend the planning requirements, but it's gonna apply to future applicants. Not to the one that's, maybe up for approval.
Should not just say by amending this, then you don't go forward. When it actually changes the mechanism of the process of that.
Right. It kind of speeds it up a little bit. In that, give some legislative changes, 2019, 2021, again, it's a ministerial duty. If they're meeting our requirements, we gotta approve it. And so P and Z, to have to go from P and Z to city council on a plan that's meeting the requirements of the code, is redundant.
And there's a clock. And that clock, the start of it just changed. And having both bodies involved could risk that plats get approved without being looked at by anybody because they need.
If they don't meet the requirements, right? We have to approve, or let's say, really, if we're going to disapprove, we have to do that within the 30 days.
Are there any other questions?
Make a motion to approve an ordinance amending chapter 10, article 10.03, entitled subdivision ordinance, to bring it to comply with the home rule charter.
A second.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Lusk. We have a second by Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Passage. Any other discussion, any questions? If not, we'll vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
You're welcome.
Agenda item 15, discuss process and budget for planning for future road improvements. Stephen?
What's that mean? Street presentation.
24 March or something. Yeah. That's happening. All right, so I'm gonna rehash back a little bit of, what we went over, last month. So, these are some projects that we completed, with Crescent Oaks, we completed at about $1.9 million. It did all of Lake Shore and Martingale between Lake Shore and, Yacht Club Road. Eagles Landing, we spent $970,000 on Eagles Landing. You can see it at Eagles Landing Boulevard on Jessica Oaks and, I forget the streets anymore. Then we did Emerald Sound. It closed out at roughly $1.3 million, covered, from Opal to Diamond Point, about 900 feet to Diamond Point, all of Alexandrite and all of Aquamarine. We did Martop. Martop was a joint project with Denton ISD and Mud 5, I think, with Denton County Mud number 5. But it has completely closed out because we were doing a change order, but the actual bid price on the road was $1.9 million, almost $2 million. Currently, we're in the process of Max Bowden, doing the loop and the hotel back down toward the gate of the boat ramp. Looking at pricing, to date, we spent about $6 million, almost $6.1 million, and the estimated construction on Max Bowden is about $341,000. Moving forward on project with the Denton County Bond Program. We have asked to move McCormick up. I think that price of that project is about $1.5 million, so we estimated. It may be a little more because we'd estimated it at asphalt. Now we're talking about doing that as a concrete street.
1.5 was the total or the our share?
That was total on asphalt.
Well,
So it's probably going to cost us a little bit more, but we now have partners on this with Bloomfield coming in to pay for their portion of the road back to Winchester. So we may be able to mitigate some of the cost of the concrete and still keep it within that 1.5. We don't know at this point yet, but. So then moving forward, I took a look at some of the next.
Steve, can I ask a question about your morning? Shouldn't we, can we get them to put a sidewalk in from Winchester to, Hammond?
Previous. There, goes back to his previous. So yes, in their plan, they have a sidewalk in there from Winchester to so you said Winchester.
Winchester to Hammond, yeah.
I don't know that we can require them to do it. It's not a part of the development agreement, but I know Parks was talking about moving their budget to go ahead and put that portion in.
Okay, so I was thinking about the road rebuilding. And it didn't bond package.
Right, so the Denton County bond package, they've agreed to fund the half of the 1.55. Then we're going to have Bloomfield that's going to have to pay their portion of that lane frontage. Also, Standards will have to pay a piece of his lane frontage along his piece of property there as well. So he's got a small piece of that pie as well. The little section from Winchester to Naylor, park funds could pay for that portion of land, and they did talk about that at the park meetings. And we would just roll that into the whole bid package when we put it out. Is that a question?
Yeah, I'm not. So I think it's sidewalk. In Winchester, yeah.
We would just finish that sidewalk up from this point to Naylor to get a sidewalk the full length between 720 all the way back to the park. Basically.
There's a sidewalk.
There's not currently a sidewalk, but there will be.
And that sidewalk is going to be.
So there's currently going to be a sidewalk running the north side here of McCormick, but it will stop here at Winchester right here.
And where's that sidewalk? Did we plan that sidewalk?
That sidewalk's in our master plan, but the sidewalk is a part of the development agreement for Bloomfield. If they place the sidewalk this distance between 720 and Winchester. Park board had said, hey, let's go ahead and plan to put it into the overall bid package and get it from Winchester back here to the Naylor Road. Naylor Yacht Club is where it kind of changes right there. Who's gonna walk on it? I guess, I don't know, anybody that wants to maybe walk to 7-Eleven, Starbucks, Jake's Place, sort of back and forth, yeah. The people that want to see the wildflowers. Could be a bike, no doubt. Kids riding bikes, better to have them on a bike than on a. So then, looking forward into some of the projects in the future. Yacht Club is a neighborhood that we haven't done any work to. They roughly have about 9,289 square yards of street in there. Looking at Chipsill. Chipsill is the type of road that they currently have in there, and probably the best course of action for a road in there because they have a lot of wildlife, not wildlife, but trees. So if you go in and you mix lime or Portland around those trees, will kill them. But if you go in with this at Chipsill, you're not mixing that into the soils. So if you did 2 courses of Chipsill from what we're finding and looking on different sources like Road Source, ENR, Engineer News Reports, and some other sources, showing that Chipsill is about $2.75 a square yard. We're also looking at saying put 2 courses down, so that's what we're about $5.50 a square yard. So you take your 550 times your 9,289. And that says it would cost about 61,000, a little over 61,000. Now that doesn't include any level up materials where you have to go in where you have soft spots and put some hot mix in and harden it up. Or in this case, we have some soft spots out there. We may have to dig some out, put some base rock or something in it, and pack it to get it leveled up before you can put some sort of chips on it. If you compare that to asphalt, 3 inches of asphalt. Asphalt currently right now is about $109 a square yard. So asphalt compared to Chipsill will be 61,000 compared to 1.2 million. And then again, I don't have any engineering included in this.
Did somebody not go ask for paving? They want this.
I doubt they would want it. Asphalt would do a lot of damage to their.
Anything, but they want certain.
Their roads are in pretty bad shape. They do. There are. Because we have had requests from residents when you're going to fix our roads in there as well.
Because I know that we think about certain things.
Yeah. I drove the roads this morning and they're in pretty much disrepair. That also didn't bring up a little bit of what I don't know if Dagny's still here or not. She left us. She mentioned some ditch work, and so they do have some ditch work that needs to be cleaned up and things that needs to occur in there. So those are not hard numbers, but I mean, if I were just looking at a chip seal process in there, we'd probably be looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of 60,000, 61, 65, and so on.
You recall when they were chip sealed last time?
I don't, but it's been a while. I mean, they're definitely neat. Chip seal has an estimated useful life of around 10 to 15 years, depending on how well it's maintained. And it's time. It's due.
They were dirt in 2004.
Yeah.
We looked at some different options back then, but we couldn't
before that. That sounds about right, because Shannon tells me a story about him being in the backhoe bucket when they were chip sealing and stuff. So, yeah. So that sounds about right.
Can chip seal take up work for trees in the middle of the road?
Well, that's the nice thing about chip seals. All we're doing is laying down a hot liquid tar mix, and then we just spread a rock on top of it. So we don't really penetrate into the soil with any type of constituents such as lime or Portland. So.
They have at least 2 or 3 trees in the middle of the road.
Right, and that's what makes, I think, chip seal a good choice for them. Even, they may want asphalt, I doubt it, but, asphalt will definitely be detrimental to their trees that are in the center of the road that we can survive. So moving on, I looked at Crescent Oaks. I did some rough estimates with Google Earth. I came up with roughly a total of both R3X and R4X neighborhoods of roughly 68,000, almost 69,000 square yards of street frontage in that area. Then I broke them out by R3X and R4X. So if we were looking at R3X, which is the upper portion, we've already done Lakeshore Boulevard and Martinville, so kind of the outside streets, the top and the bottom, but not, is it Maverick that goes north-south on the east side? We haven't done it, but I measured those streets and I came out with about 37,400 square yards, give or take. 2 courses of chip seal on that would roughly cost of about 250,000, something like that. If we were to do those with asphalt, and did a total rehabilitation of all those streets, we'd be looking at $5 million. And again, there's no engineering in that. Then I looked to the R3X areas. In a 2-course chip seal, again about $550 a square yard. The lower part actually has a little bit less street frontage from what I calculated, and I came up with about 207,000 in chip sealing and about 4.1 million in asphalt.
Is that every road?
Yes, that's
including Lakeshore.
I didn't measure Lakeshore. I took it out and just argument on it. So that's just all these roads that come up around at Horseshoes down here somewhere and Highlands up here. All those roads are currently chip sealed with the exception of Lakeshore Boulevard.
And aren't those old chip seal roads about 25 to 27?
Yeah, they're quite old. So, yeah, they're 25 to 27 years old.
Kind of elevation change there, that sacrifice of chip seal for elevation.
So I don't really think the elevation change is going to make any difference. There's just going to be a matter of, again, we'll probably do some ditch work and do clean some things.
The chip seal on Cedar Pine Lane, it's got where elevation drop, which is fine, short of the street. There's no rain, that chip seal gets worse for the rest of it.
Yeah. And so Cedar Pine is probably due again to be chip sealed. Yeah. So, it's about a 10-year process, and 10 years you probably need to be doing it again. So you're getting close on that 10 years. So it's probably close to. And what you do there, you don't do it, you just lay another layer of chip seal.
What's the asphalt next?
I'm sorry.
What's the asphalt next?
Asphalt runs about 15 to 20. So that I took some prices on chip seal just to kind of give some totals on it. So I looked at the R4X, R3X, and then I had some contingency in there because there's going to be a level up process where we have some soft areas, we have some holes we need to fill in with either a hot mix, or maybe we need to come in and harden it and mix it with Portland or something to get it hardened up. But so I had some contingency in there. And so looking at R4X with contingency about 250, R3X about 200. So Crescent Oaks, we could do probably most every road in there without, again, no engineering costs factored into that. But around 450, 54,000, somewhere in that ballpark. Yacht Club Estates being 61. And if you said, well, hey, what would it be to do them all? And that would be about 515,000 minus engineering. Now, engineering isn't going to be as expensive for chip seal because really all they're writing is tech specs. You know, they don't have a whole lot of other information that they have to put in there, just basically technical specifications for how they want to lay it down.
Would you have any way to ballpark what that might be?
So engineering has gone way up. You know, so asphalt, you're looking anywhere. It used to be about, we used to look for about 15% of project costs, and now it's going to about 20% of project costs. So I would imagine it's probably somewhere in that same ballpark, but you know, 20% of 515. So not a great
Just
difference.
a question about this. Let's say you went with the chip seal. What are your biggest complaints? When people complain about the driveway access, and I see there was we really need to maybe that as a contingency. There's contingency to do things like that.
So that's what we had the 20% in there for, to try to address things that we're not familiar with. 20% is actually a high contingency. Usually once we get closer and narrow down the project, we start lowering that contingency down. But right now, when we're just ballparking, 20%, and 20% of the small numbers are big numbers. So, you know, if we have more ditch work in there, they can blow that contingency. If there's more ditch work. And as you go down in that R3X area, you know, you're starting to go down to the lake, so you have more drainage, faster drainage, and that's causing more erosion. And we need to make sure that's all flowing properly to get to the lake. You know what can happen with chip seal if water is not flowing, it backs upon the street. You get up underneath that chip seal, basically lift it up and crack it off or break it off. Because really, when we finish, you have 2 layers of chip seal. You have about probably 4 inches of rock and asphalt. You have on the road surface. So,
If you were embarking on a project of this scale today, what would your timeline be for completion?
so much quicker. Less than a year probably from beginning to end versus if we're doing asphalt, at least 1 year of engineering alone. So it's a much faster process.
So including engineering.
Yeah, because again, it's right.
The whole.
This is
neighborhoods.
absolutely, yeah. You know, within a year, this would be done versus asphalt. You have at least 1 year of engineering. Quite a bit of difference in time. Looking at those same project areas with asphalt, R4X would be about 5 million, R3X would be about 4 million, combined about 9 million. Look at your 20% of engineering, you're at 10.8 million. Yacht Club Estates would be about 1.2. Total combined for those 3 neighborhoods is about 10 million plus 20% of engineering. Yeah, you're looking at $12 million to do that. We don't have that kind of money, unfortunately. So, you know, here's a little bit of facts about chip sealing. Obviously, it's a lower cost. You don't have to go in and do crack sealing on the road because it's a tar emulsion that's spread across there already. It does actually make the roads a little safer because the rock surface of the chip seals will have more friction, so you can get a little better traction on it. It provides an effective moisture barrier because you have 2 layers of asphalt emulsion that covers your base on the top. You know, it because of what it is, it doesn't really oxidize, so it kind of stays the same color from day one to last day. It's easy to maintain. If it breaks up, you know, we take some hot tar, we go down there and we have rock, we just basically patch it with that, and that way, you know, it's estimated useful life, depending on how you maintain it, can be 10 to 15 years. You know, how do we apply it? And we prep the road, we go in and find any foundation issues, we're kind of leveling up with hot mix or liming in or Portland and whatnot, just to get it leveled out. So when we get it leveled, you know, we pre-level asphalt to improve the drainage for the cross slopes. And then that's where they apply the hot asphalt, and then we chip seal it, and they'll come back they'll lay another layer on top of that, and then they roll it. So, I mean, I left out stuff, they actually brush it, so once they get it rolled, and they come back with a sweeper, and they sweep up. Biggest complaints I usually get from chip seal, from residents, is it's hard to get up a lot of that excess rock, so you get a lot of excess rock on the sides, so they want to complain about that. That's just the biggest. But it's a fast process. It doesn't require an amount of engineering. Unlike full depth reclamation, we're not in with the mixers. We're not mixing Portland and lime. That takes forever to mix that. We don't have to proof roll it. We don't have to water it. We don't have to let it sit up and dry. We don't micro crack it. We don't do a lot of steps. It's why the cost is $550 per square yard versus $109 per square. It's quite a bit of different process.
So going back to those two budgetary, the bottom line is asphalt is 20 times more expensive than chip seal. So second time more.
Quite a bit more than, yeah, that's 20 times right.
So Stephen, if we looked at Crescent Oaks and thought, okay, what was the number you had for doing the hot mix?
It was gonna be, with engineering, it was gonna be probably 10 million.
10 million. So let's say not every road needed whatever, and take that down to 8 million. What's the feasibility of being able to actually do the project with the budgetary constraints we have? Looking at all the different mechanisms that maybe we can fund it, bond issue, whatever. I mean, is that what we come down to, is a bond issue we have to vote on?
We would definitely have to come down to a bond issue on 9 million. I would think if you're gonna do it asphalt, you would phase in, streets over a period of time where, this could be what time period? I think if you were focusing strictly on Crescent Oaks roads, and you were doing $1 million or $1.2 million a year, then if you broke that out, then you're looking at an 8-year process to do all those roads. Versus this is a process that can provide a good road surface in there. You can do it in a year for $500,000.
Some of those roads are in such poor condition, I don't think they could wait
Right.
multiple years,
Well,
especially not 8 years.
I mean, if we wanted to go forward with the complete asphalt solution, it would only make sense to go in first and do the chip seal to allow the recovery of the roads as they currently exist. And then you'd have a decent roadway to come out to 10 years, or whatever it took to do the asphalt. So, I mean, either way, I think you have to do the chip seal.
You still do both. You still do the chip seal and phase in road projects.
You could definitely do it that way. You could do your chip seal, then you could look at some of your worst areas where we're having the most problems, and then you start working those into your CIP. And so, look, we're going to come back in 3 to 5 or whatever years, and we're going to start doing these streets. But we have a lot of streets in the community. We're trying to get to a little bit of all of them and spread what little money we have around all areas. This is a cost-effective way to make those streets decent streets, in a fairly quick fashion and for a lesser cost.
I got a dumb question. So there's chip seal on one end and there's asphalt on the other. Is there anything in between, like super chip seal or double extra chip seal or whatever that's in between? Better than chip seal, but not 20 times better.
Yeah, I don't know of anything, beyond chip seal, and we use it. We actually use chip seal to extend a lot of asphalt even. So we'll take chip seal and we see it more up north where they have harsher, colder winters. They'll let chip seal down over the top of the asphalt. But I'm not familiar with anything in between chip seal and asphalt. It's either if you go to chip seal and your next step up is probably an asphalt. A lot of your state highways that you see, I don't know about 720 back in the day. a lot of your farm and market roads are chip seal roads.
Thank you.
So what's the cost for, concrete? We're looking at $100 million.
On which one?
No, just, yeah,
Oh, concrete?
$5.
I didn't get any concrete pricing because I wasn't even pricing concrete on anything.
No, I was just, so that aside, another question then. So let's say you did chip seal everything, get ready, and you say, there's an asphalt plan to do that. Now those roads start breaking down year 15, year before that, perhaps not. You say, oh, this street's pretty bad, we gotta go back and do this street. If you're gonna redo an asphalt street, that's same full cost. Like you do.
Right. But I think, as Councilman McCloy said, what you do is you come in with a chip seal, or 2 courses of chip seal on these roads and get them back decent drivable roads, and then you start planning your CIP about how do we now start looking at phasing in, replacing some of these roads with asphalt streets as we move forward with our CIP. So.
Yeah, I think that's key. I mean, topic of discussion is planning for future improvements.
Right.
So it's bringing them up to usable standard, and then let's get a plan in place for us to be able to deal with this going forward without it having to be this gigantic number.
Right. This gives you an ability to have a good passable, drivable street.
What's the next step? Now we got this good information. What's the next step?
I guess next step is, looking at the numbers and kind of knowing what the numbers is. With council, as council, do we want to go back to the whole thing? Do we want to look at getting the engineers to price out all of Crescent Oaks? We want to look at kind of phasing that in 2 phases. This year, R3X, next year, R4X. That's what I'm calling them here, even though upper lower, do we just want to just get pricing on all of them? I got them back where I want you guys. So.
I don't think just the whole thing, right? I mean, how much money was spent on roads?
I mean, I would think that would be what I would recommend is that council, let's get some pricing on doing all of the roads that we haven't done in Crescent Oaks, R3 and R4X, get some pricing. Let's get them chip sealed and also, I think there's some economies of scale, and go ahead and get Yakima Estates in there as well. Maybe you can look back and see the Prime Lane. If you're setting up on 10 years, it's probably time to re-hit those roads.
Stephen, is it possible we might have some numbers from engineering of everything in Yacht Club when we start our budget workshop?
Yeah.
Because it kind of rolls into the budget process.
Right. So we do have some money budgeted this year. And I think we will go ahead and start getting some of this moving in this year's budget. And try to, this may be a process where we're kind of across 2 budgets. We started in this year's budget and we finish it next year, since we're 6 months in. So.
But you're speaking of the engineering costs now, not the road work this year, right?
Right, because really, once they start the road work, it goes fast. It's not a slow process. Unlike full depth reclamation, where it takes almost a month to grind the street.
Okay, so let's start to finish, start engineering, finish the last road.
Yeah, this is basically a year project, from engineering to finished, it's done, versus, as I was saying earlier, that if this was an asphalt project, it would be a year worth of engineering alone. So this is finished in a year.
Any other questions for Stephen? Agenda item number 16. Discuss the process of handling complaints brought during public input at meetings. John?
See what plans to respond to that or not. To me, this seems like always a time for this, or to do this, or whatever. When somebody comes in and complains, or I can file a complaint, I'm supposed to do that, complaint, do this. And obviously, kind of tracking that. Somebody said, this is my problem, my neighborhood, I'm a problem, I want somebody to fix it. How should we do this, Steve? What's the best way to do that? Not to draw, not to make everything paperwork, but make sure something is followed up on.
Yeah, typically when they come in and make complaints, city council, we do follow up on, and we take that and either put it into the work order system and send it to the appropriate staff person that would handle that complaint that was brought in to the city council.
So the overall tracking of that, like.
So once we put it in create a work order, then we can track it.
Spreadsheet form, manual spreadsheet, or sort of software?
It's that same one that you guys, I think, get for code enforcement. It goes into that same work order system.
So it gets an ID associated.
It does. It gets an ID that's associated with it. And matter of fact, if a resident goes on and says, I want to report a concern, when they type it in and hit submit, it gives them a number, and they can go back in and plug that number in. And I know code enforcement's good about it. They'll go in and type in what they've done, and they can see what code enforcement's done. They can make contact with the owner. The owner has said this. Whatever information that the code enforcement officer makes available to.
You're telling me the system works, we just don't have enough exposure to it to understand it.
It does work, yes.
Maybe next week,
John, are you asking that we get a report back on these inputs at a subsequent meeting?
Not necessarily, that is somehow it's taken care of. It doesn't fall off. It's to the person leaves, it doesn't go off.
No, I mean, if it's some valid things, you know, we definitely put those in. Sometimes we get some things that are not necessarily valid, you know, said tonight that the ditches are the city's responsibility. Code of ordinance, they're not. Yeah.
Well, not everything's an action item, right?
Right.
Those that are, it would be helpful, I think, or show responsiveness if we saw tracking on that and saw what action item. Sorry? Yeah.
This is something.
Is there an easy way?
Yeah, so we could obviously put it in the work order system and probably print off what was done. And put that in council on any that were, you know, work order type related issues that need to be followed up on.
That's all. Thank you, Steve.
Agenda item 17, recess into closed session in compliance with section 551.001 at Texas Salary Code to get A, section 551.071, consultation with city attorney to receive legal advice regarding rezoning of property overlay districts and plan development district issues and related issues. We are going into closed session at 8:03 p.m.
Stephen.
Thanks, y'all.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
There was a traffic stop 1 house away from mine. What is it? It's about zoning, plan development district, or three overlay districts, or all the stuff that I.
Oh, yeah.
It's so good. It's good. It's an hour and a half. Yeah. But I wanted to hear what goes on. That's all.
Yeah, no.
What's his name?
A number of people years
All
ago.
right.
He was the just, so several of us are interested in finding out if there's going to be honest support in the court hearing. And so some of us would want to see what the disposition of that is. Who would I go to?
You have to email, the admin there. I mean, give me another email for you.
Sure.
And just let her know that you want to do an open records request.
So I don't know. I think it's usually after, it's past after P and C's and that. So I think it's May.
So it's S Bialik. S Bialik, BYALICK. And just let her know that you want to do an open records request for that time and date on that incident.
Okay.
So she can give that to you.
Appreciate that. We hope maybe that stop will impede or I should say moderate what this kid has been doing. That would be lovely. Thank you, Chief.
This was kind of a, not to say.
You want to know?
We can, yeah, we can. Huh?
I'm struggling.
Well, you get to see what the city is moving towards. It's very interesting.
We're gonna get done. We're gonna have to start with and
Maybe we'll get that with Loris to get that.
oh yeah. Well, I mean, firefighters can go anymore. We can't go big. We go back, we go. And they're getting something else.
Well, it's a drive-through too, so. Here you go, yeah. They do have these sandwiches, breakfast sandwiches. It's a little, it's a little, it's a hot dog type breakfast sandwich. Oh, yeah. I'm just really grateful to this.
Nikolai, I want you back here.
It is actually really, it's part of my regular job. So, it's definitely, you gotta dedicate a lot of time to it.
You learning?
Yeah, it's actually a lot of good. I wish it would have had this before it became chief. It's a good class if you want to, if you ever aspire to be a chief one day, or assistant chief, or just higher up. So here in the next year, I'll send civil. Not both at the same time. It's two. I want to do one next year, and then the following year. But then start sending even the patrolmen to supervisory classes, leadership classes. That's the goal, to start sending everybody to leadership classes.
I was down on the list. I've contacted every police academy that was listening to Tico site from Region 7 and 8.
So they do a recruit over there.
I've listed it though. Our recruiting, a couple of them only have firefighters, and then I've also listed they have in-service training. So it has all that listed out. I made a document on it, so I'm gonna call and schedule those visits. And, we have that coming too.
So are you, have you been in contact with, what's his face? Chief, or contact for accreditation?
He has to respond in 8 days. He's the training one too. He's one of the big ones for me.
Yeah, I know he's busy. I don't know why he took this on, but.
Because he's about to be going out of town too for 2 weeks.
So let me know if he takes like if he takes more than like 2-3 weeks to respond to you. Because, yeah, then I'll get with Chief Short and see if that's normal, because that's not normal. So maybe that's not normal, and so if that's the case, then I'll just I'll get with TPCA and see if they have anybody else.
Well, it sounded like he liked the first one, did he? Got back to me quick on it, and that submitted the other, a lot more. They're all really not applicable, so they're not hard to prove. You just go in there and look at advertising things, say yes. And then I gotta get back to him on other stuff too, but he didn't say anything back. He sent me an email saying, I'm on the road today, I'll get back to you tomorrow, and that was 8 days ago. So, I'm in a standstill because I have 20 things pending, because I don't want to submit more when I already have 20 in the system. But it's giving me
follow
time
up,
to-
send them a follow up on Friday morning. Say, hey, just following up, hadn't heard from you in 10 days.
But it's giving me time to work on this other stuff, so. I'm following through and all that, recruiting and everything. I think Riley's probably just upset because he thinks he's losing PIO. Based on those text messages I sent you. It seemed like he was upset.
Just tell them that I asked you to do it.
I did.
Since I'm gone. Just to help out.
I told him I'm just doing social media stuff. I'm not doing the program.
That's the thing though, they don't, hey, between him and Sarah, you've done way more than they have in the past 2 months. It's like, any post is because I asked them to. And it's like, no, y'all should feel free to, come up with all these ideas and do it.
If you want to send it to me, have me do daytime and then have nighttime, or if he goes back to day, whatever. But I think he should be more of the face because I think he's better at talking in those situations.
Yeah,
I'm
that's why I
getting
wanted
there.
you to start, that's why I wanted you to start emailing it as a group. Because Riley, he has good.
That's when he was upset about that. He's like, I just got an email that it's supposed to say I get you to go.
Some chiefs are calling.
So I told him, I was like, I'm pretty sure you're to the PO. I'm just doing social media stuff. Which he had talked to me way back in the day, talking about how you do community relations stuff, probably. I mean, since I'm just doing that. And what I'm doing is I'm taking major departments like Sherman and stuff like that who have good social media teams and I'm doing finding what dates they're posting about and then bringing that back here to post for us.
Just keep stay engaged.
But I've been getting so much hatred back.
As I just saw him, one, he's not in office anymore. They don't post anything,
Well, it doesn't make sense for that situation for me to call him at home when I have access to Facebook. Right. He was upset about the emoji because he said we shouldn't do that. We just killed someone's pet, and he said,
oh, that's why.
Yeah, yeah. And then he said the syntax is wrong. I think there's like a D that could be added in the last paragraph, but it's nothing major. So I was like, I'm not going to edit it. You can definitely show me that. I can go back and see who changed it. I said, I'm especially not going to edit. Me and Chief talked about it. He approved it to go up. Yeah. And then he's the one that edited the last. I'm not going to go through and edit something that Chief edited that he was fine with. And he has access to
So say he can change it. I trust his judgment. So.
Yeah. I got a whole calendar made to update. So I went through and found a bunch. So.
Oh, yeah, I'm fine.
Well, yeah, I'm getting all kinds of feedback from people. All people aren't happy.
Really doing something that nobody else is doing.
Well, I try not to complain. Nothing that's irritating people. So, I'm ready for you to come back already. I want to say more stuff, but then I don't want to put it in one back. I'm trying to stick to myself and get stuff done. How you want me to work it when I should be clear on Wednesday? How you want me to work that?
Work what?
When I get cleared, I'll be in uniform again.
Yeah. And then like any
disturbances.
Yeah, go out.
My plan is to do that. I'm going to be in office a lot, probably still for the next month or so, because that's all the academy dates coming up. So I'm going to be hitting those to go recruit at. But then, like after that, still. But then after that, I'm going to, so I had those recruiting at those academy academies. And then I'm going to, try to like get with Wazowski, and anytime anyone has time off their West Coast, go to those for them. Yeah, I don't want to run the wrong way or anything. Anything else right now? I'm got with emergency management. I'm meet with them tomorrow. For the first thing, and then I'll get that emergency operation plan printed while back to us, so we have it. Hard copy and whatnot. And then whenever you get back, about me, approach and stuff. Who's that? Oh, yeah. You're getting there. We're getting there.
That's pretty much it.
What happens now?
They just come back and then we just talk about feature agenda items. The next one. And we adjourn.
Chief.
Thanks for staying for us, Chief. You're nice to do that.
Somebody got drug safety.
Yeah.
That's here. And that's.
I'm gonna say.
Two square foot sign, that's all you get. As long as it complies with your. Where'd everybody go?
Oh, gee.
Home, have dinner.
Normally do.
What time is this? 6:08.
Yeah.
But dog, that's just. Yeah. All day. Female hug. So he is a home nurse, tender. And then the other, 3 months older,
Of course.
Fine.
Rally the troops.
She's just trying to keep them apart.
Yeah, yeah.
The meeting is reconvened at 8:19 and no actions being taken. Agenda item 18, future agenda items. Tony, you asked me to mention something in future agenda items. What was it?
That we need a meeting on April 3rd for the pits.
That's right, we need a meeting on April 3rd. Good job.
What's the total?
Everyone's on board. Mhm. And it'll be after BOA. We already have BOA going on that evening, but Mary needed to have it that day.
Approximately 6:30.
So approximately 6:30, they have 2 items, so it probably shouldn't go longer than. Yes, it is.
Council members, do you have anything else to add at this time? And I'll remind you, you can always send them an email.
Trash cans and email.
I have a question. Steve, will you-
Is it about future agenda item?
Yes.
Okay.
Stephen?
Yeah, the question for future agenda, items, just to be clear, we talked about roads a lot today. Was my Chris notes? What we call it, participation. Do we do anything before budget time on the road thing? Or is it better around by the time we talk about it?
There was a lady here, Mary Ann, that was taking notes. I'm sure she'll report.
She's taking notes for the entire neighborhood, it'll be on Facebook. Probably about that.
Okay, I just want to make sure that.
So,
We're not doing something secretly that they don't want.
no, I'm gonna try to bring back some better numbers, some engineering costs next month for you guys. Maybe look at, maybe approve, and try to get some things moving forward with that.
So I was gonna say, those names, Chris, those on next month's agenda.
Yeah.
So those who are watching.
They should be watching. They can watch right now.
Yeah, that's that plan, yeah.
Any other agenda items? If not, is there any future business? If there's not, meeting's adjourned at 8:22. Thank you. Thank you guys, appreciate y'all. Have a good evening.
That's 53.